Hello my friends and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. This video will bring an update from the Ukrainian front using both sides, using a Ukrainian source and a Russian source. And let's see how these guys are going to overlap or not at all. I'm going to start with the Ukrainian article coming from the New Voice of Ukraine from February 21st, 2023. Ukrainian forces repel Russian assault on multiple axes, reports General Staff. And the other article from the Russians is a little bullet way of having this update, where you just, let's say, go into Sumy Oblast, and let's see what's going on over there. Staroselye, Belgorod region, Belgorod governor said that the Ukrainian shelling had damaged the power line. So that's the way it goes with the Russian update. You just push on each and every bullet if you want, and you figure out what's going on. Now the blue thing here, the blue things are the what the Ukrainians did, right? And then the red ones, the red bullets, are what the Russians did, and then as rockets. And then you have the black stuff here, and the black stuff is direct encounter between the two forces, fierce fighting. All right, so that's one. And then we got the yellow one, and the yellow one I think is hitting down, air defense shooting down a Ukrainian drone. So this is the way to read this map. The Ukrainians are starting to provide their update starting from the north. Now this is a Russian map, so it has the Russian terms, names of the cities and oblasts. Here, for instance, this is Kharkov in Russia. In Ukraine is Kharkiv. Chernigov is in Russian. Chernihiv is in Ukraine. We have here for instance, Bakhmut, which is the Ukrainian term for the Russian term of Artemovsk, right here. And we have Vuhledar as Ugledar. So gotta bear that in mind. They go by at least two different names. All right, let's start with the Ukrainian article. In the past 24 hours, Ukrainian defenders repelled the invaders' attacks in and around the settlements of in Kharkiv Oblast. So they repelled right here, so in this area. And they give you, the Ukrainians give you Hryaniivka and Masyutivka. And if you look here, let's see if we find this. Matyutivka and, all right, repelled. Let's see, what did you repel? Yeah, this is Matyutovka in Russian. That's the one that the Russians say. Let's see what the Russians are claiming it happened there. Once this is very sensitive, this Russian map. You see, it's not cooperating when you want it. But hey, we're going to figure it out. So we got it again. Let's go here to this little Masyutovka. And they claim here that forces of the Zapad group in the course of active combat operations destroyed Ukraine Air Force's troops and military equipment using artillery and airstrikes. This is what the Russians are saying, and the Ukrainians are saying that Ukraine's defenders repelled the invaders' attack in and around the settlements of Hryaniivka and Masyutivka. So Hryaniivka, let's see if we got Hryaniivka here. Under what term? With an age. Anything here? I don't see anything with an age here. So as I said, these guys are just, and it should be right here because this is the Kharkiv Oblast or Kharkov. And I don't see anything coming from the Russian side. All right, so let's move on to the Ukrainians. And then he said that they also repelled the invaders' attacks in Luhansk Oblast and Donetsk Oblast. Now these are south here. This is the Luhansk and this is Donetsk right here. So this is where they encountered attacks. the Russian, where you see the AK-47s here, the Kalashnikovs. Now, and they started with the Volyn, Policia, Siverske, and Sloboda areas. No signs of enemy's assault groups were observed. Over the past day, Russians shelled the settlements of in Chernihiv Oblast. So they say the Russians shelled the Chernihiv. Nothing in Chernihiv by these guys here. And you have only in Sumy Oblast where actually the Ukrainians shelled inside Russia. The same here in Belgorod. This is Kursk Oblast, this is Belgorod Oblast. So, and then he says here that in Sumy Oblast also the Russians attacked, but the Russians did not report that one. All right, so more than 25 areas in and around, this is in Kupiansk and others. So the Russians are, they conducted assault operations, or at least groups were observed in Kupiansk. Kupiansk is on this area right here, by Kharkov, this area. And then the enemy aircraft carried out a strike from the Russian territory of Hranov in Kharkiv Oblast. The Russians don't say anything about that one. In Kupiansk and Liman directions in the east of Ukraine, the enemy opened fire on the settlements of and in Donetsk Oblast, also in Kharkiv. So now they go down Kharkiv and then in Donetsk right here. The Russians, as I said, they did, the only thing that they did here is right here, as Russian forces destroyed a Ukraine Air Force's ammunition depot, but this is not in where they say it is. Liman is right here in the north, Izum, Liman in this area right here. So let's see what they did. Forces of the Center Group hit UAF troops and military equipment using heavy flamethrowers, artillery, and airstrikes. All right, so it seems like they coincide. In the section of the front near Bakhmut, the Russian army fired at Ukrainian positions with tanks, mortars, rockets, and artillery near 20 settlements, including, and gives you Bakhmut as well, obviously, New York, and Veselen Donetsk Oblast. So they talk about this area right here. This is Artemovsk here. This is Bakhmut. Fierce fighting is taking place on the city outskirts. Yan Gagin, advisor to the DPR's acting head Denis Pushilin, said that the Ukrainian forces were putting up resistance. Now, the hottest place is right here, according to yesterday reports, where there's a chance of the Ukrainians being encircled in this area. And if Artemovsk or Bakhmut falls, or the Russians are breaking through right here, it opens their route towards, let's make this bigger right here, Dnipropetrovsk here, and not that one. And Kramatorsk and Sloviansk. So if the Russians are completing this encirclement here, then they would have a free range right here to go to Sloviansk and Kramatorsk. And then from here, continuing to the border of the oblast. Now, in the sections of the front near Avdiivka and Shakhterske, more than 30 settlements were shelled by the Russian army, including, they give you about 10, in Donetsk Oblast. Russian aviation carried out strikes in the areas of Kamayana, Avdiivka, Marinka, and Vuhledar. Vuhledar, as I said, it's the Russian for Ugledar. So now they're talking about this area here, Marinka, Ugledar, which is Vuhledar, and Avdiivka. So this is where the Russians are conducting offensive operations and contact between infantry units. Now, in the Zaporozhye sections of the front, Russian troops shelled over 25 settlements, including in Zaporozhye Oblast. So it's just shelling, if you want to put it that way. Shelling, this is Zaporozhye right here. So the Russians report Russian forces destroyed the UAF ammunition depot, And then forces of the Vostok group struck UAF units using operational and tactical aviation and artillery. Let's see what the Ukrainians did here. Russian air defense shot down 2 Ukrainian drones. So it's a back and forth here in Zaporozhye Oblast. In the Kherson area, which is the most southern, if you ignore Crimea, over 35 settlements were affected by Russian fire. All that in the Kherson Oblast. Very interesting if you picked up the numbers of the, so this is the bombardments. Here it seems like the Ukrainians are doing more damage than the Russians. Now, if you look here at this article, you see here 35 settlements, 25 settlements, 30 settlements, 20 settlements, 25 areas. So if you look at these numbers, you would notice that that's an increase in numbers. That means the Russians are really pushing forward. Now, pushing forward, bombarding the other side, as of now, yes. But before it was 7 settlements, 10 settlements, 5 settlements, and maybe a week ago started to be reported by the Ukrainians. 30 settlements, 30, I have never seen 30. I've seen 25 maximum, 22, 20, something like that. So there's definitely the Russians increased their shelling of the Ukrainian defenses. And what do? This is the front, this is the Ukrainian defenses. They try to destroy these guys and advance a little bit. These guys push back, destroy those guys, push. That's how the Russians were going, slowly or not at all, because it seems like the Ukrainians have a lot of ammunition as well. With forces of the good, with good people, good countries, fighting Russia in Ukraine, obviously they have ammunition. And we'll see when the good countries will switch their economy on the war economy instead of civilian economy. So we're gonna build ammunition and weapons, and less anything that we actually don't build anything, because all the good countries have other bad countries work for them so they can print the money to give them. Anyway, so that's how the thing goes. We don't build anything, but somehow we have everything. Interesting. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.